On the line with us is Gabriel Rosales, the Texas LULAC State Director. There's just some wild stuff going on down in Texas here. Gabriel, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. First off, tell us about LULAC for people who are unfamiliar with your organization.
Yes, we're one of the largest and oldest civil rights organizations, Texas being our largest membership, but we have over a few 100,000 members across the country.
Great. And that's the League of United Latin American Citizens, right? That's what the acronym stands for? Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
So tell us what Ken Paxton is doing down there in Texas. What's happening?
Well, you know, in 2022, Ken Paxton has been pushing that this voter fraud. As you know, the Republican Party continues to act as if there's been this massive voter fraud where they've never been able to prove. So he put together this investigative team that goes into communities. They started to kind of under the radar. We just really didn't figure out what was going on in Tarrant County, you know, destroying people's lives, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, they lose their jobs, they lose their houses, and then we got the charges dropped. They then again came back in April of this year, this past year, I believe, or this year, and they raided in Pearsall, Texas. Again, it was under the radar. I really didn't, you know, I was hearing rumors of these things, and whoever it was that got served, they weren't really communicating with us. It wasn't until a couple of days ago they hit some of the LULAC membership. And that's when we kind of got the bigger picture of what was going on. And so what we do know, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Finish what you do know is.
So what we do know, right, is that one of the things that LULAC has fought for is to well, you know, under Russell Rosales' 200 single-member district lawsuits, opening up the doors for Latinos to be able to run for office. Our fight has always been to have a seat at the table, and so this is kind of a pushback on that.
Right.
But they're using their office to affect the outcome. They were hoping that we weren't going to say anything, that it was just going to happen and everybody was going to be scared and they were going to continue on. And closer to November, they're probably going to bring up fraudulent charges, making our candidate, Cecilia Castellano, who's a LULAC member, you know, a criminal. It doesn't even matter if the charges stick. They put that out there right before election time to affect the outcome of an election, and that to me is illegal.
Ron DeSantis did this little trick down in Florida just before the 2022 election, I think it was, when he was on the ballot, and he had for re-election, and he, you know, kicked in the doors of a couple of dozen, mostly black people in Florida, and paraded them before the cameras in shackles. Most of them had no idea that they had committed a crime. You know, they were people who the state had said, sure, you can vote. You know, these were people who were convicted felons, but, you know, had served their time. And, of course, Florida had passed that whole ballot initiative that allowed for them to vote. And they dropped a lot of the charges after the election, but it appeared that during that election, there were almost 1 million fewer black voters in that election than there had been 2 years earlier. And there, you know, from which I think you could derive the conclusion that you know, kicking in the doors of black voters succeeds in causing a lot of black people to say, you know, I really don't want to vote. Is that what's going on in Texas, only with Hispanics? Are they kicking in the doors of people's houses?
Yes, that's exactly what's going on. And so, but one of the things here is we're not going to stand for it. We're going to continue to push forward. We're going to continue because there's a House District 80 race that Governor Abbott here is gunning for. Yeah. It's a 51% Republican turnout, but over 80% Latino population. But the Latino people historically have a historic apathy. But since we've been in there organizing and knocking on doors and talking to people, we've been able to increase that. We actually got our candidate onto the ballot. It was a tough race, but we got her in there. And I think they know the writing on the wall. So it just... Their candidate, McCaughlin, who's been endorsed by the governor and by Ken Paxton, is the race that they're trying to impact because it's going to be an embarrassment when we win this election for them.
I understand that you're going to the federal government, to the Department of Justice, I believe, and saying, please do something about Ken Paxton's terror tactics here. Is that true?
Well, yes, we are. We're actually going to file a charge of official suppression. We're working together with people like MALDAF, and we're hopefully going to get a hold of ACLU as well, because it shouldn't just be us. It's not just going to be us. Yeah. You know, when they invade the civil rights of one person, they're invading all of us.
Yeah.
And so we can't just stand by and allow this to take place. The Department of Justice, as you know, historically, has always been our relief here in Texas and South Texas, dating back in the beginning of time with the civil rights movement as well. So it just seems like they're resorting back to their old tactics of harassment, of coming and pointing guns at our people. These ladies were 80-year-old ladies. They're grandmothers. Wow. What they couldn't do in Uvalde, they did to our poor little old ladies. So these people are it's just it's unthinkable, the harassment. I had Lydia Martinez, one of the victims. She was crying on the phone.
Yeah.
And I told her, don't worry about it. We're with you. What they do to you, they do to us. We're not going to let you do this alone. And so we blasted out, and thank you for covering this, because we want people to know the truth. The truth is nobody broke any laws. Yeah. The truth is that they're using this voting integrity unit to go out and intimidate the Latino community here in Texas, and we're not going to stand for it. Yeah, we're going to fight back. We're organizing press conferences on every county, from Frio to Atascosa, within the House District 80, to let people know, don't be scared. Justice and equality is through the ballot box.
This is a long-time Republican strategy. And we're talking with Gabriel Rosales, the Texas LULAC state director. LULAC.org is the website. Operation Eagle Eye, I mean, you know, William Rehnquist started his political career, which ended with him being Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, started his political career standing outside polling places in Phoenix, in rural areas around Phoenix where there was large Latino populations and Native American populations. And he was a big bear of a man, and he was a lawyer, and he just challenged their right to vote, and would challenge them so aggressively that many of these people would simply leave. They wouldn't bother voting. He threatened them and those kind of, this was a nationwide effort by Republicans in the 1964 election, the Barry Goldwater election. So they've been doing this for a long time, Gabriel.
Definitely.
Do you, and it worked for, you know, Ron DeSantis in Florida, you know, scaring black voters. It's got to be a fine line that you're walking here between helping publicize Ken Paxton's raids, because he wants that publicized. He wants people to be afraid. He wants them to think, hey, if you're Hispanic and you vote, they're going to kick in your door and drag you off. And even if you get off, you're going to have to spend $100,000 in legal fees. But on the other hand, you want people to vote and not to be intimidated by it. How do you do that? How do you thread that needle?
It is a fine line, but we have a lot of good friends. Domingo Garcia, who's an attorney, and we're ready to stand behind them. What we need them to know is that they're not alone, that we're going to fight back with them. And so we're working together with several other, we're looking to talk to ACLU, MALDAF. Fatima Mendez was there with us today to see how it is that we can set up a defense team for our people, for the Latinos in the community, so that they know, because you're right, they're on fixed incomes.
Yeah.
They don't have the money to hire an attorney.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the first things that they told me. And I said, you don't worry about that. You let me worry about that. We're going to get together with all the civil rights organizations in Texas and across the country, so that we can begin to fight back immediately. So we're hoping to get that complaint done with the Department of Justice sooner than later.
You're doing God's work, Gabriel. How can people who are listening to this program right now reach out and help? Is there anything that we can do?
Well, we're going to be setting up, go to our website, make donations to the League of United, LULAC.org, the national office, or go to the Texas website, either one.
What is the Texas website?
Get in there. It is TexasLULAC.org, I believe. I'm not too sure. I'm so sorry. I'm all kind of out there. And go in there and leave us a message. Let us know that you want to support. One of the things you can do is we're doing a robust voter registration across the state. So we're going to be in Houston. We're going to, because this terrorist tactic it begins with them tearing down our public schools. It begins with them also terrorizing the immigrant population who bring $4.9 million to the economy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I found your website. It's TexasStateLULAC.com. Texas State, STATELULAC.com.
Yes.
So anybody listening, get over there and see how you can help out. This is a real battle, and these Republicans in Texas, particularly Ken Paxton, who himself has been accused of multiple crimes in office. This is just wrong. This is criminal. Gabriel Rosales, the Texas LULAC State Director, and again the website TexasStateLULAC.com. Thanks so much for dropping by, Gabriel.